can't hit it any harder.
That's perfect.
It's 7 o'clock, time for our regularly scheduled meeting. Mike, would you call the roll, please?
Collier Wise.
Here.
Hellwig.
Here.
Holland. Here. Humphrey.
Here.
Price.
Here.
Sorensen. Here. Ward.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Powell.
Here. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is minutes. We have minutes from November 19th at noon and also at regular schedule.
Second.
Motion is second to approve minutes is printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Adoption of the agenda. John or Mike, do you know of any additions or corrections?
Move adoption of the agenda. Second.
Motion is second to approve the minutes as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Visitors to be heard. Addressing the council. Persons addressing the council shall use the microphone at the podium. Please raise your hand to be recognized. Go to the podium and state your name and address. For items that are not on the agenda, members of the public may speak under visitors to be heard on any topic not on the agenda. Remarks are limited to 5 minutes and no decision will be made at this time. For agenda items, public testimony will be taken at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced by the mayor and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item. Public testimony will then be closed and the topic will be given to the governing body for possible action. At this point, only City Council members and staff may discuss the current agenda item unless a council member moves to allow another person to speak and there's unanimous consent from the council. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to the staff or a member of the public through the presiding officer at any time. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on anything that is any topic that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, is there anyone on the council has anything that they wish to bring up that's not on the agenda? Okay. We'll move on to item 6, public hearings. Item A, transfer of a retail on-sale liquor license from Maya Janes, Inc. to Brian Engelman for 914 North Dakota Street. And Mike, please.
An application for transfer of the retail on-sale liquor license for Meyer Janes Incorporated to Brian Engelman for a business to be located at 914 North Dakota was received. A copy of the notice was published for the license transfer, and the police chief's report on the local records check is attached. It should be noted that the DCI background check has not been received yet from the DCI, and in talking with Brian Engelman, the background check information wasn't mailed by him to the DCI until November 27th. He had left it for somebody to get a check and a money order that's required, and they got misplaced on the desk. City Council has the ability to issue a license and basically 2 criteria: suitable person and suitable location. As to the location criteria, the Howlers has had a license at this location in the past. The new business will be located in a portion of this building. As to suitable person, the DCI background check has not been received. So it's recommended that the public hearing be continued until December 17th to allow time for the DCI background check to be received by the chief of police, so we'd have information to base the suitable person on. And if there was any public hearing, or public comment, we could receive that and then ask the council to make to continue this to allow time for the DCI background check to be received and continue the public hearing at the December 17th council meeting.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this item?
Move to continue for our next meeting. Second.
Motion is second to continue to the next meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No. Item B, renewal of retail on-sale liquor license for Brian Engelman for a business located at 914 North Dakota Street.
As again, the public hearing was advertised for tonight to renew the license under the previous agenda item, which would have been to transfer it. Again, as we do not have the DCI background check, It's recommended that the public hearing be continued until the December 17th council meeting.
Thank you, Mike. Council? What was moved to continue? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Under item 7, we have old business, and the first one is the second reading of ordinance 1392, adoption of the 2018 International Building Code, and we do roll call votes on the next 25 things. Farrell?
Yeah, well, as you said, this is a second reading, so I won't go through the whole details. Just let you know that we've cut all the line outs and underline and commentary out of the ordinance, so the ordinance is in the packet as it will be in the ordinance. And I'm happy to report that we haven't received any comments, I guess, for or against, so I assume that everybody's happy with the amendments we made, and with that in mind, of course, we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and second to approve second reading of ordinance 1392. And Don, will you set us up for the roll call vote, please?
Okay, you see overall results, 9 yes, 0 no, motion passes. Item B, second reading of ordinance 1393, adoption of the 2018 International Residential Code. Same thing here. We've cut out all the stuff we don't need. We've reduced it to just what's going to be in the ordinance. No comments on this one either. And I just remind everybody, that we're doing this in 3 phases just to help everybody, the contractors, the architects, the engineers, read this thing when they're going through the ordinance so they don't get confused between different codes. So again, we ask you, we recommend that approval.
Motion and second to approve the second reading of ordinance 1393. All in favor signify by saying, you knew it. Don?
Overall, 9 yes, and
I won't try. 9 yes, 0 no, so the motion passes. Item C, second reading of ordinance 1394, adoption of the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code. Again, Farrell.
Same thing as the first two. All it is the part that's going to go in the ordinance. No comments on this one either. I'll pass you off to the fire marshal just as soon as we get done with this one, but we do recommend approval of this one as well.
Thank you, Farrell. Council? Motion is second to approve the second reading of ordinance 1390. Overall, 8 yes, 9 yes, and 0 no. Motion passes. All right. Item D, second reading of ordinance 1390, adoption of the 2018 National Fire Code. And Matt, please.
Yeah, just like Farrell said, we haven't heard any response on this. Any good, bad, indifferent? You know, same with the building code. We cut some stuff out. We added some stuff that we need here. Like I showed you a couple weeks ago, it's a big book. We only use a portion of it. So on that, staff would recommend we approve it.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All of it. 50%. Mechanism for roll call. So overall is 8 yes and 0 no. Motion passes. Thank you. 7E is a second reading of ordinance 1389 to amend Title 11, Chapter 114, Sections 114.01 to 114.10, to add additional definitions and amend the regulations governing transportation network companies and vehicle for hire drivers. And James, please.
Thank you. The first reading of proposed ordinance 1389 was approved at the November 19th City Council meeting. There have been no public comments received since that hearing. In summation, this new ordinance would streamline the TNC driver application process, hopefully lessen the city's potential liability, as well as continue to maintain the safety of the community. And provide people with continuing access to alternative methods of transportation here in Vermillion. There are no financial considerations to this ordinance, and we would recommend that the second reading of 1389 be adopted.
Thank you, James. Council? Questions? Questions, sir? Your mic?
Can't have more than 3 moving violations or in 3 years. Does that mean while he's operating as a driver or all, no matter what?
That is no matter what.
That's strict, I would think.
I would just note that that is not as strict as the previous version of this ordinance, and also is it is equal to the policy of the transportation network company that operates here in South Dakota.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Motion is second to approve the second reading of ordinance 1389. Don? We see the results, 9 yes, 0 no, so the motion passes. Thank you. Item 8A, a permit for consumption but not sale of alcohol in the library.
Katie Beam had requested permit for consumption but not sale of alcoholic beverages on public property for a reading and music reception to be held in the Kozak Room of the Edith B. Sechrest Vermillion Public Library from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on July 12, 2019. A copy of the request for the permit is included in the packet. Also, since they are using the library there, we asked the librarian to indicate, and so the letter there that the librarian has approved them for use of the building, and that as to the alcoholic beverage, it told them to contact the city to get the special permit. The city council may permit the consumption but not sale of alcoholic beverages on property owned by the public. Administration recommend approval of the permit for consumption but not sale for the reading and music reception event on January 12th from 7 to 9 p.m.
This is fine, and I know they have a good record from the past, but we don't ask for a police report? Because they've done this in the past, a couple of years, I believe.
This is, in the past, the library has been doing their Books and Brew event, and some of them, this is a different organization that is wanting to do a reading and a reception there.
So they have no previous history, you're saying?
No.
Did it require police to look at it? Yeah.
I think generally we've required a police report when there's sale, but because this isn't sale, it's just consumption. Like in other consumption ones, I don't think we've required a police report when
We've
it's
never
not
asked
being
for them
sale.
before for consumption. I know they had it at the fair, the farmer's market has had
Like
some
tastings.
consumption or tasting things.
Well, I guess it's never been an issue, so don't worry about it, but I think we're leaving ourselves open because you can get just as smashed when it's free.
I would also, I would note Katie Beam is a member of the library board, and so while this isn't through the library per se, it's through a library board member, and it's a, I guess it's a group of artists that are using the library for a reception, not dissimilar to what you'd have like at the gallery next to the theater, which frequently has alcohol, or the John Day Gallery on campus, which often has alcohol at openings. So it's a similar program.
Do we have a motion?
I would move approval.
Motion is second, further discussion?
What is the nonprofit organization, though? Is there an actual name of this, or is it just a group of artists?
It's just a group of artists. They're not going through a formal organization.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second, further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item B, adoption of federal grant administration policies and procedures. Mike, please.
This was brought up at the noon meeting on November 19th, where our auditor in the Department of Legislative Audit put the city on notice of the need for a federal grant administration policy and procedures that would be required for accepting federal grants. The uniform administrative requirements, cost principles, and audit requirements require each entity to have these written policies dealing with internal controls, subrecipient monitoring, determination of allowable costs, documentation for payments, documentation for procurement procedures, and standard of conduct covering conflict of interest. The attached grant administration policy and procedures were prepared through the finance office, and our auditors reviewed them and determined that we would be compliant with the Code of Federal Registry for accepting federal grants. Administration recommend adoption of the federal grant administrative policy and procedures as included in the packet.
Thank you, Mike. Council?
Move approval?
Motion is second to approve. I'm sorry.
I do have a question, if you don't mind. And I realize this is just sort of we have to, right?
Yep.
But is there a provision in here that when it comes to the compliance and the monitoring and the management, are those stages or those records open to the public as the Code of Federal Regulations is? But do you know, happen to know?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a public document if
Okay.
it's maintained in the finance office, and so yes, they would be available
Okay.
for review.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item C, collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME for dispatchers. And John, please.
Thank you. Over the last couple of months, the city has met with AFSCME with respect to both this item and the next item. The first item has to do with our collective bargaining agreement with the dispatchers. The Labor and Finance Committee established some guidelines that kind of helped administration work through those discussions and negotiations. So we've had a couple of different meetings since May to work that out. We did reach a tentative agreement that was presented to the City Council at your last meeting via the Labor and Finance Committee report. And so tonight you have the agreement for action. Just to kind of hit a few of the topics, both this item and the next item are both 3-year agreements. They both have the same cost of living adjustments, 2.25% for 2019, 2.5% for 2020 and 2021. Employees would receive an additional floating holiday beginning with the 2019 budget year. These next couple items pertain strictly to the dispatchers. The shift differential, which is currently 75 cents, would go to $1 an hour. That's on January 1st of 2020 for hours between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. They have certified field training officers. When we have new dispatchers come on board, they provide some intense review and assistance with them as they come up to speed. And so we do compensate just for those hours in which they're performing that certified field training service. Currently, it's 5% additional during those hours. It would go to 6% on January 1st of 2020 and 7% January 1st of 2021. The dispatchers are a little bit unique. We have two different pay scales within that group there, and so we're bringing those two pay scales together, so at the end of this 3-year agreement, we should be able to move forward with one pay scale. And then there's also a gym membership that's part of this. That would be increased our portion by $25 a year. Jessica Stanley is our local union steward with regard to this particular agreement, and we want to thank her for the guidance that she provided bringing that forward. So the Labor and Finance Committee recommended approval of the agreement, and administration concurs with that and also recommends approval.
May I just ask you one question on when you refer to general employees, it's those that are under the union, is that?
Right, so this is, the first one is just the dispatchers, the general employees, and the next one, those would be individuals who are not the dispatchers, the police officers, the library.
But they are in the union?
They're eligible to be in the union.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Move approval.
Motion and second to approve the collective bargaining agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see. Now, is that one for the regular?
Yep, no, it's general.
General. The next item is collective bargaining agreement with ASME for general employees, John.
Thank you. So this is very similar to the last agreement in terms of the setup and everything, the meetings we've had, the time period and all that. So we've kind of brought this forward. Again, the cost of living adjustments, the length of the contract, the additional floating holiday are all the same. The one, as I noted with the last agreement, the one thing that would be different is that their shift differential is currently 50 cents an hour. Theirs would go to 75 cents an hour January 1st of 2019 and then increase to $1 on January 1st of 2020. Other than that, the agreements are very similar. Kyle Heisington with our wastewater treatment plant was our union steward on this, and appreciate Kyle's leadership in terms of helping this agreement come forward. The Labor and Finance Committee recommended approval, and we concur with that agreement.
Thank you, John. Council? A motion and a second to approve. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion, and opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item A, E, and item 8E is Business Improvement District Number 1 board member appointments. This program started in September of 2013 when the council adopted a resolution establishing the board of directors for Business Improvement District 1 would be comprised of 5 people. The terms of office are for 3 years. By the bylaws, 1 member of the board is to be specifically involved in the lodging industry, and Bid Board 1 works with the lodging industry to utilize the $2 per night per occupied hotel room fee to promote tourism. Current members of the board and their term of expiration are Amy Christensen, 2018, Dave Herbster, 2018, Bill Marketon, 2019, Dan Kenton, 2020, and Greg Huckabee, 2020. So we have two people that are termed out. We've had 2 applications to refill or to replace them, and the 2 people are Amy Christensen and Dave Herbster, and that would be my recommendation for the board.
Move approval. Second.
Motion a second to approve those 2 people. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item F, Professional Services Agreement for Annual Audit, Williams and Company. Mike?
The city's required to have an annual audit as part of our bond resolutions. They require that we annually have an audit completed. The Department of Legislative Audit has oversight over all local government audits. The workload for the Department of Legislative Audit, they would not be auditing the city for 2018. We need to contract with an independent public accountant for an audit. Williams and Company has conducted the audit since 1999. They have had agreements. We've had 3-year and 5-year agreements. The last agreement was 5 years, so I asked them to propose another 5-year agreement. The agreement would be for 18 through 22. The fee is $25,750 for 2018, $26,500 for 19, $27,300 for 2020, $28,100 for 2021 and $29,000 for 2022. In addition to that, they would have a $1,700 per year fee related to testing and reviewing. They refer to it as a GASB 68 balance and note disclosures. This is a requirement as part of the city being in the South Dakota retirement system. We've got to list the city's respective share of assets, liability, equity, and pension income and expense. In addition, they would have a $2,600 fee for each major federal program. That would be those over $500,000 in federal expenditures, which requires them to expand their testing on the audit dealing with federal funds. The annual fee has increased. 2017 fee was $25,000 plus $2,600 for the airport major federal grant. Administration would recommend approval of the agreement with Williams and Company for audit service for the next 5 years, contingent upon the Department of Legislative Audit approval.
Mike, since it's every year, the $1,700, why isn't that just in their base?
There's some discussion about maybe that being changed, that GASB may be looked at maybe in the future.
Okay.
With the city having to report its respective share, the South Dakota retirement system kind of questions the fact that if they're 98% funded, we show a liability, yet there's nothing in our agreement for reimbursing South Dakota retirement system, or they're at 102%, we're showing an asset. And so I think that's why they kind of left that one open-ended.
Okay.
Just a question, what might be the pros and cons of staying with one auditor for 25 years as opposed to a fresh look of eyes? And I'm all for continuity, but you could explain that perhaps better than...
If you have an auditor for multiple years, a lot of each bond resolution they keep copies of to go through to make sure we're complying with any requirements for each bond. So they have a permanent file they create of our bond resolutions. Any policies the city have, they've got that for continuity going forward. Hate to say, working with the staff, figuring out what we call a journal or what we call cash disbursements, cash receipts, or what our printouts are called. We know what they're wanting, so we prepare documents in advance for them to hopefully cut down on the time they are here asking questions, and they've worked out where we send them records electronically in advance to try to cut down on the number of hours they're putting into it to keep the costs down and have the information there. Yet you can't always argue another set of eyes looking at something. Maybe we're overlooking something and we're both doing it. The firm doesn't that works in our area, they specialize in governmental accounting. That a lot of the requirements now have your continuing education and stuff. You've got to do that in the work you're doing. So if the staff does governmental auditing, a certain amount of their continuing education hours has to be in that versus all in tax related or whatever. So it's, the firms are having to specialize that are doing governmental auditing. There's not that many of them out there anymore. It's
Okay.
made it a little harder to find people to do that.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Howard?
Because this is under 25,000, we don't have to, 55,000, we don't have to bid it.
Since it's really a professional services, they're exempt from bidding it. I did put in my memo there, Yankton has Williams and Company do their audit. Their fee last year was more than ours. They did have one major federal grant of over $1 million. Spearfish and Madison, Spearfish's fee was greater than ours. They didn't have any major grants, and Madison's was less, and they didn't have any major grants either. So
Do we have a motion yet?
Second?
Motion and second to approve our agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item G, a first reading of ordinance 1396, 2018 supplemental appropriations. And Mike, again, please.
The city council adopted the revised budget, seems like just yesterday, in September 2018. We never get away from budget. And since that time, there's been some expenses as well as revenues that need to be revised so that we can comply with the state statute that provides that we should not exceed a budget line item. I've listed in there the proposed adjustments. There's some to revenues and building permits, and that state surface transportation program STEP had some additional money that they doled out to the city. We got fire department got a federal grant from Homeland Security. Contributions and donations, the fire department got a grant, and also the Library Foundation had some additional contributions that came in that the foundation contributed to buy specific equipment. That extra STIP money that came in went into the STIP reserve and will be dipping into our general fund reserves for a little over $48,000. As to expenses, in the finance office, we got equipment repairs and maintenance. We've had some computer issues that have required some additional maintenance on our computers. The fire department's had some motor vehicle equipment repairs, building repairs, fuel supplies, and then the largest line item was that furniture and equipment, which was the grant funds for their building security system. The ambulance department had some increase in professional fees, operating supplies, and other supplies. And then we were looking at our swimming pool where we had an increase in wages, chemicals, electricity, water, and other current expenses. And then the Library Foundation had the increase in furniture and equipment from what was purchased there. Special Revenue Fund, our second penny sales tax, we had talked about the library roof being redone, had it included in our capital outlay, and forgot to include it in the budget. The Vermillion Now contribution, the VCDC, had some water main they had to extend out on Carr Street, which would qualify for the Vermillion Now funds. So that was done there, and then to cover that, we had to appropriate money from reserve. And in the Special Revenue Fund for Parks Capital, our revenues and contributions went up $1,400, and our expenses went up $1,400. There was a group raised some money for a park bench in memory of an individual that was purchased. They made the donation, and then the city purchased the park bench. Tried to cover them a little quick, but that's, we'd recommend approval of first reading of ordinance 1396, which would supplement the budget to hopefully get us through the end of the year.
Thanks, Mike. Council?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor. Maybe for John or Mike. And it's only because I've heard from people who live in the vicinity of Prentice Park. And the question is, do we need bright lights all year round, even in the winter, up until I think it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm not sure, but I see there's a $5,450 increase in electricity. Maybe that has to do with equipment. Now, I don't mean this is not a micromanagement thing, but I have received questions from people surrounding Prentice Park about all the bright lights. So is there anything we can do? I don't know. It was worth bringing up. I don't want to stall this, but
I'll visit with Jim Goblish, and he's out at the conference the next day or so, but I'll get you an answer later this week.
And I can address why the costs are up a little bit. The pool was open more days this year, and the pool was ours the whole year. Last year, the contractor had the pool until June 1st and was paying the utilities on it. Now it got turned over, when it got turned over to us, we didn't have a full year of some of these utilities. So that's part of why we have some more costs this year is because we had it for the whole year.
Okay, thank you.
Motion and second to approve first reading of 1396. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Carries, thank you. Item A in bid openings is LED streetlights. And Shane, please.
Thank you. In 2016, we began a 4-year process to convert over to an LED system for all of our street lighting. 2019 will be the final year of that conversion. The city opened bids for the LED lights on November 21st. A copy of the bid summary has been included for you guys' review. Bids were requested for the post-top LED lights, which are found in most of the residential areas of town. The city sent bid documents to 7 potential bidders, and we received 2 bids for the post-top lights. The low bid was received from Irby Utilities in the amount of $392.75 per light, for a total of $88,368.75. The 2019 Electrical Distribution Fund does include funding for these purchases. Administration recommends awarding the LED lights to Irby Utilities in the amount of $392.75 per light, for a total of $88,368.75.
Thanks, Shane.
Yep.
Council? Motion and second to approve the price of LED streetlights. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Item B, bid for fire department bunker gear. And Matt, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The National Fire Protection Agency recommends replacement of personal protective gear every 10 years. Our department currently has 35 sets of turnout gear that are past the 10-year replacement point. New studies are heavily suggesting that each firefighter be issued 2 sets of compliant turnout gear so that the gear may be washed every time it is contaminated in an attempt to prevent cancer-causing agents from entering the body. The bid opening for this gear was held on November 29th. The city received 3 bids. Bidding is required by state law, and the cost of the project is estimated over $25,000. The city estimated the cost of the gear at $72,000. The purchase of the bunker gear will be done through the second penny sales tax fund of 2019. The funding will be from FEMA grant that will reimburse 95% of the purchase price, with 5% of the balance will be from the second penny sales tax. Total grant that we were awarded was $91,000 of protective equipment. Gloves and helmets and such still have to be acquired, and that'll be done through the use of quotes, low quote that was received. Administration recommends awarding the bid to Hyman Fire Equipment for $62,483.75. This includes 1 coat and 1 pair of pants for each set of 35. If awarded, staff would issue a purchase order for the recommended amount.
Thank you, Matt. Comments, questions?
So boots are separate?
Correct. We're required through the grant to purchase also per set 1 helmet, 1 pair of boots, 2 hoods, and 2 pair of gloves.
Okay. I move approval of the awarding the bid to Hyman.
We have motion to second. Further discussion.
Chief, how long will that take for these items to be manufactured or brought to us? Once ordered?
It varies. It can take 2 to 3 months to receive. It'll be closer to 3 months with the holidays. We'll try to get the order in before Christmas to lock in 2018 prices, but we won't receive anything until March. And the bid in the bid packet, we have to receive everything. I believe it's by May 1st of 2019.
Rich?
This is still just 1 uniform each, not 2?
This will get us probably 90 to 95% of our personnel having 2 sets of compliant gear.
The other one being the stuff that's more than 10 years old?
No, currently, some people will have stuff that's more than 10 years old for 1 set. The other set will be compliant. So over the next 5 years, we're allocated anywhere from 12 to 16,000. It goes up over the next several years in the second penny fund for gear replacement. So we should be replacing, even after this year's purchased, 4 to 5 sets per year to get everybody to where they have 2 sets of compliant gear.
Great. Thank you.
Further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief. Item D, I'm sorry, C, fuel quotes. Mike, did we get?
That's up on the monitor. Fuel quotes for the month of December, unleaded gasoline, 4,350 gallons. First quotes from Stern Oil, $1.87. Bid item 2 is number 1 and number 2 diesel fuel dyed. The average cost is $2.30.65 per gallon. Item 3 is 1,000 gallons of number 1 and number 2 diesel fuel cleared. The average cost is $2.57.525. The second quote is from Brunick Service on unleaded was $1.92. Dyed diesel fuel, $2.22. And clear diesel fuel, $2.58. Stern would be low on 1 and 3, and Brunick's would be low on 2.
Thanks, Mike.
Approval of the low bids.
Motion and second to accept the low bids. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Now, item D, sale of surplus vehicle. Mike?
November 5th, the city awarded the sale of several vehicles that were put out to bid. There was, I think, 5 surplus vehicles at that time. Out of those vehicles, there's a 2002 Ford Taurus that was not sold. We were contacted later by Jessica Nelson of Newcastle, Nebraska, inquiring about purchasing the vehicle. She has submitted an offer of $550, which is the appraised value of that vehicle. I'll note Jessica is the wife of Brian Nelson that works for the city in the mechanic shop. No bids were received when we tried to sell it. Her offer equal to the appraised value, and administration recommend awarding the sale of the 2002 Ford Taurus to Jessica Nelson for $550.
Thank you, Mike. Council? Motion is second to approve the sale. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is our city manager's report. John?
Well, I guess we knew this day was coming, but I should go ahead and give this reminder again about sidewalk clearing. Just a reminder that sidewalks are to be cleared 24 hours after the end of a snow event. And again, that snow should be stored on your property, not across the street in a neighbor's yard without their permission, or piled up in the street in front of the neighbor's property. So, and we do ask if you are moving snow across the street that you not leave windrows of snow across the street that way. So, just a reminder to get those sidewalks cleared within 24 hours after the end of the event. The city was recently awarded right before Thanksgiving a $60,000 housing opportunity grant, and that was through the South Dakota Housing Development Authority. And that's to assist mobile homeowners with improvements. First, we go to our cottage villa residents. They'll be given first priority to utilize these funds. There is a local match of both dollars or in kind to receive that $60,000. We do not yet have the grant agreement, so we hopeful once we get that, we'll have a few more details about it. But that was something, you know, following the discussion earlier this year, the council looked into what can we do. There's some contacts to our congressional delegation, and ultimately led us to working with the South Dakota Housing Development Authority to put together an application. So I'll be anxious to see how that works out here in probably the first half of 2019. Our Planning Commission will be meeting next Monday night, December 10th. They'll be at 5:30 p.m. here in City Hall. There are 2 items on their agenda. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Each item is a conditional use permit for a twin home, and they're both in Bliss Point. So there's one conditional use permit application for twin homes on Joplin Street, and also conditional use permit application for twin homes on Rockwell Trail. And then through this evening, there were 2 raffle notifications of the VHS activities on it. This quilt is valued at $450, and the tickets will be sold until February 21st. And the drawing will take place during the high school basketball game that night. And the second one is they're selling raffle tickets $5 each, or 5 for $20. The tickets will be sold until the drawing on January 4th of 2019, and the prize is 4 tickets to the USD SDSU men's and women's doubleheader basketball game on January 6th. The proceeds from both of these raffles will be used to help with the Vermillion after prom activities.
Thank you, John. Any comments or questions for our city manager? Okay, then we next turn to invoices payable. Stump Mike, as we refer to it. Mike, what's the difference between de-icing and icing salt?
Nothing probably. Just what the vendor called it on their invoice.
Okay. Oh, yeah, right, right.
I move we pay our bills. Second.
Motion and second to pay our bills. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We have no consensus agenda, Steve. Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. We're adjourned. Thank you.